Right by twos. Yo!
Now the next she wore a yellow ribbon. She wore it in the winter and the merry month of May.
Why this movie still matters. The most iconic westerns ever made, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon from 1949. Now, you probably know this movie stars John Wayne and was directed by the legendary John Ford. But trust me, there are so many cool behind-the-scenes stories, surprising details, and little Easter eggs that most people don't even notice. We're talking production struggles, historical nods, cast secrets, and visual artistry that changed how Hollywood shot westerns. So sit back and let's gallop through 20 hidden facts you probably didn't know. 1. The title comes from a real military song. Most people think the title She Wore a Yellow Ribbon was made up for the movie, but it wasn't. The film's title actually comes from a real traditional military marching song that was sung by American soldiers and was especially popular with cavalry troops. This tune dates back to the Civil War era and had lyrics about a woman wearing a yellow ribbon for her faraway lover in the army. And yes, that's exactly where the movie got its name from. 2. It's part of John Ford's Cavalry Trilogy. Now here's something cool: this movie isn't a standalone western. It's actually the second entry in what film historians call John Ford's Cavalry Trilogy. The first was Fort Apache, 1948, and the third was Rio Grande, 1950, each focusing on the U.S. cavalry's role in the Old West. This trilogy explores themes like duty, aging, and the changing frontier, with Yellow Ribbon sitting right in the emotional middle. 3. John Ford didn't initially want John Wayne. Okay, this one might shock you. The director, John Ford, didn't originally want John Wayne for the role of Captain Brittles. Ford thought Wayne was too young and too much of an outlaw cowboy star to play a seasoned cavalryman nearing retirement. But after seeing Wayne's work in Red River, 1948, Ford changed his mind, and the rest is history. 4. Wayne was made to look much older. Even after Ford decided to cast him, Wayne was only around 41 years old during filming, yet the character he plays is meant to be in his 60s. So the makeup team, including Donnell, Cash, and Anna Mallon, had to do a lot of work to give him that older, weary look. And it totally worked. Audiences believed Wayne as a seasoned cavalry captain who'd spent decades on the frontier. 5. Ford gave Wayne a cake after filming. Here's one of those sweet Hollywood moments most fans don't hear about. When shooting wrapped, John Ford actually gave John Wayne a cake with the message, "You're an actor now." Ford was known for being tough on actors, but in this case, he was acknowledging how much Wayne had grown and matured in his craft during the production. 6. The movie was one of the most expensive westerns ever. In 1949, westerns were everywhere, but She Wore a Yellow Ribbon still stood out in terms of budget. With an estimated cost around $1.6 million, it was one of the most expensive Western films ever made at the time. That's because Ford insisted on shooting on real locations and in Technicolor, which was still a big deal back then. 7. Monument Valley isn't just a background, it's a character. Fans of Westerns know Monument Valley, that striking red sandstone desert in Arizona and Utah. But what many people don't realize is that Ford didn't just use this location for pretty shots, he framed the entire movie around it. He and his cinematographer, Winton C. Hawk, studied the paintings and sculptures of Frederick Remington to capture the feel of the mythic West, and the result is breathtaking. 8. It was only Ford's second Technicolor film. Although Ford would later become famous for colorful Western epics, this movie was only his second time directing in Technicolor. His first Technicolor film was Drums Along the Mohawk way back in 1939. That means a decade passed between his color experiments, and this film really showed he knew how to use color to enhance the landscape and mood. 9. The cast lived in really rough conditions. You've probably heard about actors roughing it for a movie, but this was intense. While filming in Monument Valley, most of the cast and crew lived in basically primitive cabins with dirt floors and cold water communal showers. That can't have been easy, especially on a shoot that lasted over a month. 10. A real thunderstorm helped create a legendary scene. Here's a classic Hollywood story. During a cavalry charge scene, a real thunderstorm rolled in while the horses were riding. Cinematographer Winton Hawk didn't want to shoot in the low light and was worried about lightning, but Ford insisted that they keep rolling. The result? One of the most dramatic visuals in the film and an Academy Award-winning shot. 11. Hawk filed a complaint about that scene. And speaking of that dramatic thunderstorm shot, it led to tension. Hawk was so upset about being pushed to shoot under dangerous conditions that he filed a formal complaint with the American Society of Cinematographers against John Ford. That's wild, right? Yet despite the dispute, that very footage helped him win the Oscar for Best Cinematography. 12. The movie won an Oscar, but only one. Yes, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon did win an Oscar, but just one. Winton C. Hawk took home the Academy Award for Best Color Cinematography in 1950. It was a huge honor and really put a spotlight on how cinematic and painterly the film looked. 13. There's an inside joke hidden in a graveyard scene. While the main story focuses on cavalry duty and frontier life, eagle-eyed viewers might spot something curious in the graveyard scene. One gravestone has the name Devoto on it. That's a shout-out to Bernard Devoto, a well-known historian of the American West. A little wink Ford put in for history buffs. 14. There's an improvised dog joke in the film. One funny moment comes from Victor McLaglen's character, Sergeant Quincannon. During a troop address, a random dog wanders into the scene. McLaglen, without it in the script, calls out something like, "Nice dog. Irish setter." That line was actually improvised on the spot because the dog wasn't supposed to be there. 15. The horse Tyree rides has a story too. In the film, Sergeant Tyree, played by Ben Johnson, rides a horse named Laddie. But behind the scenes, Johnson rode one of the most famous movie horses of the era, a stallion named Steel. This horse had been used in tons of westerns, and when it appeared on screen, audiences instantly recognized it as a reliable equine co-star. 16. The retention ribbon theme has symbolic meaning. That yellow ribbon Olivia wears isn't just decoration, it functions in the story like a kind of unit morale symbol. In the cavalry, ribbons like that were sometimes used to signal allegiance or affection, especially during long deployments far from home. 17. There was a radio adaptation with John Wayne. Back before TV dominated home entertainment, popular movies often got turned into radio plays. In 1951, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon was turned into a 60-minute radio adaptation on the Lux Radio Theater, and John Wayne actually reprised his role for the broadcast. 18. John Wayne thought it should have earned him an Oscar. Wayne himself believed that his performance in this film was one of his best. In fact, he once said that his Oscar nomination for Sands of Iwo Jima should have been for Yellow Ribbon instead, because he felt deeply connected to the character of Captain Brittles. 19. The narrator isn't a fictional character. In the credits, you might notice a narrator voice guiding some parts of the story. That narrator is Irving Pickell, and his role isn't just stylistic, it ties the movie to a broader tradition of Western storytelling, almost like a frontier chronicler giving context to the audience. 20. Some historical details were tweaked for the story. Finally, even though the movie tries to place itself around real history, like referencing the aftermath of Custer's defeat at Little Bighorn, there are some small timeline slips, like mentioning the Pony Express after that event even though it had already ended years earlier. These don't hurt the story, but they remind us that cinema sometimes bends history for drama. What makes this film legendary? And there you have it, 20 hidden facts about She Wore a Yellow Ribbon that most people miss. From production struggles to hidden jokes, from iconic visuals to real historical nods, this movie is way richer than most people realize. Whether you're a longtime Western fan or seeing it for the first time, I hope these facts gave you a fresh appreciation. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and comment below with what fact surprised you the most.